So what's up, everybody? Today, we're talking about something people do not want to admit out loud. Some people don't have a personality. They have a script. They actually have a borrowed identity. More like a prepackaged self. You know, a personality kit that came in a box with a label that says things like God and Jesus and faith and kingdom and warrior, chosen, blessed, or even saved. And I'm not saying that you have no traits. I mean, because you can be funny, you can be kind, and you can be loud, and you can actually be quiet too. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about the deeper thing. I'm talking about who you are when the label is gone. Because if you remove the religious label and your whole self collapses, then you didn't build an identity. You rented one, in my opinion. And let me be clear before people start crying about this video is persecution and all that kind of stuff. This is not a hate video for religious people. This is simply a truth video. If you're religious and you actually have a life with actual interests and actual values you've thought through, and actual curiosity, actual humility, then this might not even be about you. But if your whole personality is, well, my God said, or the Bible says, or my pastor said, my church said, you cannot form a single thought without checking whether it's allowed, then yes, this episode is for you, and today is about you. And if that makes you mad, good. Because anger is what happens when someone touches the part of the brain that knows I'm right. So, let's go. I'm CJ Everson, and welcome to the Jewish Skeptic. Here's the question that exposes everything to me. Who are you without a brand? Not your slogans, not your verses, not your worship playlists, not your unblessed captions that you put on Facebook, not your God is good comment under every tragedy like you're doing customer service for heaven or God. Who are you without the tribe telling you who you are? Because there are people who genuinely cannot answer that, y'all. They can tell you their denomination, and they can tell you what they oppose, and they can tell you what their enemies are, and they can tell you which group they're a part of. But ask them, what do you love? And watch them freeze every time. Just ask them. What do you believe specifically and why? And they default to God vibes. Ask them, what would change your mind? And they treat the question like it's demonic, y'all. To me, that's not a personality. That's like a identity lock. That's a preset. And if your identity is preset, you are not living. You stuck in character and you're performing. Now, let's talk about why this happens. Building a real self takes work. It takes exploration. It takes doubt, and it takes trial and error, and it takes embarrassment. And sometimes it takes even changing your mind. Most importantly, though, it takes admitting when you're wrong. It takes outgrowing your old self, evolving, people. It takes sitting in uncertainty without panicking. And many people don't want that. They can't do it. So instead, they outsource the identity. They outsource their morality. They outsource their meaning. They outsource their own personalities. And religion is one of the best outsourcing services ever invented because it gives you everything in one bundle. It tells you who you are. It tells you why you're here. It tells you what you're worth. It tells you what to fear. It tells you who to obey. It tells you who to hate. But then it calls it love. It gives you a tribe and a script and a uniform and a mission and a consistent enemy to stay mad at, like myself. And the best part is it convinces you that the voice in your head is not your conditioning, it's God. So when you repeat what you're taught, you don't call it programming. You call it conviction. And if your personality disappears the moment you stop believing, it was never a personality. It's like I said on my other episode, it's more like compliance. Then people are going to get on here and say, oh, whoa, my God, you're attacking my faith. Well, I know someone's already typing in the comments, you're attacking my faith. No, I'm not attacking the part of faith that replaces your mind. I'm attacking the part of faith that rewards you for not thinking. I'm attacking the part of faith that calls curiosity a sin. I'm attacking the part of faith that teaches grown adults to fear questions like vampires fear daylight and garlic. Because here's the reality, people. A truth that is true does not need you to be fragile like glass. Because every time questions come up, you break like glass. A truth that is true does not need you to threaten people for questioning it. A truth that is true does not need you to ban books and censor science or call doubt the devil. If your worldview collapses when someone asks a question, then it ain't even a worldview. You living in a bubble, cuz, and you need help. Now, let's name the phenomenon. Some people form a identity without expiration. They commit to these traditions real early. They never experience stuff for themselves. They lock in. They never test alternatives. They never examine the foundation. They pick a team and call it the truth. And that's not rare in humanity. That's actually common. I mean, it makes us human, but that's what happens when fear and belonging and authority are mixed together. Religion can accelerate that because it doesn't just offer beliefs. It offers total identity. It offers certainty as a lifestyle. It turns life into a filter. Everything that agrees is God. And everything that challenges you is Lucifer, or Satan, or the devil, or the adversary, whatever you want to call it. And that's how you can meet someone who talks like they're free, but they're mentally on a leash, y'all. They can't enjoy music unless it's approved. They can't enjoy sexuality unless it's controlled. They can't enjoy art unless it's sanitized. And they can't enjoy questions unless the answer is already printed out for them. They call that being set apart. That's what them religious people call it. But to me, that's not being set apart. That is a setup. And if your identity is built on fear of thinking, you're not faithful. You're trapped. So, now, why does this feel so good? Let's get into that part, because I feel like this might make some people uncomfortable, like I always do on these episodes, because I'm not going to pretend that religious identity is only negative. I mean, it does feel good. It feels good to belong to something. It feels good to have a tribe, you know. It feels good to have a clear role. It feels good to be chosen. It feels good to feel more superior without doing the hard work of actually becoming wise on your own. It feels good to have certainty when life is so chaotic for y'all. It feels good to have a story that explains suffering. It feels good to feel watched over. It feels good to be forgiven. It feels good to take anxiety and call it conviction. And it feels good to take your impulses and call them spiritual warfare. It feels good to take personality and swap it for a holy costume. And the reason it feels good is because it hits basic human needs. It hits things like belonging and meaning and structure and relief from uncertainty and not knowing stuff. But here's the catch, people. Feeling good ain't proof. It is not proof. Relief is not evidence. And certainty, like I always say, is not the truth. A belief can feel like oxygen and still be poison, y'all. Think about that. So I want to run a little test right here. We're going to remove the label here. So imagine you wake up tomorrow and you no longer have that belief. No angels, no demons, no heaven, no hell, no cosmic referee, no supernatural presence, no nothing. Do you still value honesty? Do you still value compassion? Do you still value curiosity? Do you still value fairness? Do you even still value human dignity? Do you still love your neighbor, even when your neighbor ain't part of your tribe? Or do your values vanish with that label? Because if morality evaporates when your God is removed, then morality was never your goal. Obedience was, people. And if obedience was the whole thing, then you weren't becoming good. You were becoming manageable. And if you need surveillance to be decent in life, you're not moral at all. You're just highly supervised with a manager. Now, let's talk about the most obvious version of this episode. The whole Jesus is my personality type. I've been saving this for y'all. Every sentence you speak ends in a verse. Every problem is the devil to you. Every disagreement is persecution on the person that doesn't believe or doesn't go with what you say. Every question is pride. You got too much pride. Every emotion is either the spirit or my flesh. And notice something. These people, they're not actually describing reality. They're describing a control system, y'all. Because the system has to interrupt everything for you. No, I'm sorry. The system has to interpret everything for you. I mean, everything. And you might interpret it yourself. And you might grow from it. And if you grow, you just might outgrow the system. So the system has to keep you small. Y'all, small people are loyal. Big people are dangerous. See, some religions don't teach you to be holy. They teach you to be dependent. Now, here's the brutal truth. See, for some people, religion isn't a set of ideas. It's their entire life worth, self-worth, and life worth, y'all. So if you criticize the belief, they experience it as a personal attack. Not because you actually attacked them, but because they fused their identity with belief. They don't have, I believe this. They have, I am this. So when evidence shows up, they don't even evaluate it. They deflect, they defend, they don't think, they protect. They don't ask, is this true? They'll even say, I don't even want to hear it. They'll ask, well, will this get me rejected from my group? Is it going to make me lose my faith? That's not truth seeking in any kind of way. That's not a mind of truth seeking. That is a mind that has a survival strategy, y'all. And to be fair, it makes sense because humans evolved to prioritize belonging because belonging means survival. But if we don't, y'all, we don't live in caves anymore. You don't need a tribe to keep the lions away. So why are you still handing your mind over like you're trying to earn membership at Costco or Sam's Club? If your beliefs are chosen by what your group will tolerate, you're not convicted. You're curated. Now, let's add this little piece in here because this is going to apply directly to the borrowed personality problem. Because one of the biggest reasons people can't develop a self is that they were trained to treat feelings like facts. They were trained to treat testimony like evidence. And this is where I need everyone to listen carefully because people always try to twist what I say and what I'm about to say. They always do it, especially in the comments. I'm not saying that your experiences didn't happen. I'm not saying that you didn't feel something. And I'm not saying that you didn't cry, shake, or feel peace, or feel heat, feel love, feel chills, feel terror, feel conviction, or feel the presence. I believe you felt it, but the feeling is not proof. The feeling is the brain event, y'all. And your mind can generate peace without heaven. And your mind can generate terror without hell, y'all. Your mind can generate a sense of presence without a spirit even being in the room. Humans do this consistently, actually. We do it when we watch a movie and our heart races like we're in danger, even though we're on a couch. We do it when a song hits and we feel like our soul is leaving our body, even though it's just sound waves and memories. I do that a lot when I think about my dad. We do it when we have deja vu and we swear we've been here before. We do it when we fall in love and a person becomes destiny. Hell, we do it when grief makes us feel like someone is still in the room, like that spirit is there with you. See, a powerful internal experience is evidence of a powerful internal experience, not evidence of an external supernatural cause or power. That's it. And the reason I'm saying this is because entire belief systems are built on a trick, y'all. And the trick is this. You feel something, and then the community tells you what it means. You feel relief after confession, and they call it forgiveness. You feel guilt, and they call it the Holy Spirit. You feel fear, and they call it, that's God warning you. You feel anger, and they call it the devil. You feel arousal, and they call it temptation. And you feel uncertainty, and they call it doubt is from the devil. See, these people, they take normal human psychology and slap a spiritual label on it, y'all. And once you accept the label starts running your entire life. Because now you're not allowed to interpret your own feelings. Your feelings become a system. You don't get to say I'm anxious. You have to say I'm under attack. Or the devil is messing with me. See, you don't get to say that I'm depressed. You get to say I'm being oppressed by the devil. You don't get to say I feel ashamed because I'm conditioned to feel shame. You have to say I'm convicted because I was born in sin. So, when people think like that, what happens? People stop developing emotional literacy at this point, if you ask me. They stop developing psychological insight, and they stop developing self-understanding. Plus, they stop developing a real identity. Because if every emotion is interpreted by the system, you will never learn to understand yourself on your own terms. If your feelings require a pastor to translate them, that ain't spiritual. That's dependency. Now let's bring this back to evidence. Here's the difference between a claim and evidence. A claim is, let me think of one. Oh, I felt God. Evidence is, how do we distinguish that feeling from other causes, and how can we independently verify the explanation? And this is why testimony is weak as proof, because testimony is not controlled. Testimony is not repeatable. Testimony is filtered through memory. Testimony is shaped by expectations. Testimony is influenced by suggestion. Testimony gets edited over time. We know that. Dead Sea Scrolls even got edits. Y'all don't want to talk about that though. But anyway, and most importantly, testimony is not unique to one religion. Christians got testimonies. I always start off with them for some reason. I don't know why. But Muslims have testimonies. Hindus have testimonies. Zoroastrians have testimonies. Mormons have testimonies. Pentecostals have testimonies. Gnostic Christians have testimonies. The whole new age of religion and all these denominations, they all have testimonies. And if testimonies point in every direction, testimonies don't resolve the truth. They reveal human psychology. That's about it. See, if every religion has the same kind of proof, then it's not proof of the religion. It's proof that the humans have brains. And here's the part that people really hate. See, when you challenge testimony, they say, so you're saying I'm lying because I felt this and I saw this? No, I already said that. I'm not saying that you're lying, but I'm saying that you're interpreting. I'm saying that you're human, and I'm saying that you had an experience and attached a meaning that your culture offered you. And the reason they hate what I'm talking about is because it threatens the identity. Because if the experience doesn't prove God, then the identity loses its anchor completely. Pulled it right up. Ship sail away. And if the identity loses its anchor, they have to face the fear underneath it. So they don't argue. They don't try to understand. They defend every time. Testimony doesn't prove truth. It proves commitment. And let me repeat that. Testimony proves commitment. It proves identity. It proves belonging. It proves that the person is invested. But what it don't prove is the supernatural explanation is correct. And if you watching this, like a lot of my subscribers are, and you're serious about the truth, here's a challenge. Stop asking, did I feel it? Start asking, what else could explain it? And would I tell the difference? If you're not allowed to ask that question, you're not in a truth system. You're in a control system. Let me slow down here. I'm going to shift gears. So now let's talk about one of the most effective ways a system can steal someone's identity. And this is pure culture. I'm talking about purity culture. Because purity culture doesn't just police behavior. It polices the mind. It trains you to monitor yourself like you're a prison guard. It turns natural development into shame management. And when your life becomes shame management, you don't have time to become a person. You become like a project. You become a problem. You become a consistent emergency. Fire drill mode. You know how you see them people at work, they always in fire drill mode? Let me say this a little bit more plainly, y'all. Purity culture takes normal human desires like sexuality, curiosity, body pleasure, attraction, fantasy, and it reframes it as a moral filth. Then it tells you the cure is obedience. And if you obey, you get praise. And if you fail, you get guilt. And you got to repent. And if you feel guilt, you get relief through confession. Like I said, you got to repent. And if you get relief, your brain learns This system is saving me. This is a loop, y'all. It's a loop. It's not holiness. That's behavioral conditioning. Purity culture doesn't produce purity. It produces obsession, and obsession becomes identity. I know a lot of people like that. And some people's entire personality becomes not sinning. Their humor is policing, and their boundaries are fear, and their relationships are surveillance. They don't date to connect, they date to qualify. They don't love to understand, they love to control. They don't explore to learn, they avoid to stay clean. And what happens when you grow up like that? See, when you grow up like that, you don't develop emotional depth. You don't develop sexual maturity. You don't develop self-trust. You develop performance. You develop repression. And you develop anxiety, and then call it spiritual warfare, so you ain't never got to deal with the psychology part of it. Just back away, just throw it away. See, when you call your trauma the devil, you stop healing and you start fighting shadows. Now, I already know what somebody's about to say. They about to say, but purity is good. See, but you ain't listening to me. You listening to respond. Listen. See, if you want to live a disciplined life, cool. If you want consent, respect, and responsibility and care, I'm pretty sure you do. If you want boundaries, yeah. But purity culture is not about healthy boundaries. It's about control, because it doesn't teach you how to integrate desire into a mature life. It teaches you to fear yourself. You're born in sin. And a person that fears themselves is easy to govern and control the masses. A person who thinks they're constantly dirty will consistently seek approval. A person who is trained to feel guilty for thoughts will be dependent on whoever offers forgiveness. Guilt is the leash, and forgiveness is the treat. And it connects directly to your personality, because a real personality grows through exploration, through failure, through learning, through trying things that they see fit. See, purity culture sabotages that. It narrows your identity down to one thing. Am I good enough? And when your self-concept is, am I good enough? You become a hollow person, really. You become reactive. You become fragile. You become judgmental, because judging others is how you prove you're still standing in good standing. And that's why purity culture often produces the most obsessed people. These people have the loudest morals, don't they? They're the most intrusive critics, ain't they? The people who care mind their business, because when you don't have to prove yourself to be compensated for controlling others, see, People who are at peace don't need to patrol everyone's private life. And the wildest part is purity culture then takes the damage and it creates and calls the damage proof that is necessary. And it says, see how messed up you are? That's why you need us. No. That's why you need healing. That's why you need self-understanding. That's why you need to stop interpreting your humanity as a defect. Let me say it hard. Sexuality isn't a demon. Desire isn't evil. Your body isn't your enemy. If your spirituality requires you to hate yourself to feel holy, that's not sanctification. You just erasing yourself as a human being. A system that demands you shrink, they ain't saving you. It's using y'all. Come on, man. Now, here's the part I want people to understand. Even if you disagree with me, because I know a bunch of y'all gonna disagree. Leaving a belief system like this doesn't just feel like changing your mind. It feels like you're dying, and I can vouch for that. I really can vouch for that, y'all. And that it's not because the belief is true, but it's because the belief was your identity. It was your social world. It was your emotional regulation. It was your map of reality. So when that, boom, it collapsed and blow up, you don't just lose an idea. You lose your tribe. You lose your routine, your sense of safety, your meaning of structure, your who am I, your what happens after, your why suffering, your who loves me, your what do I do with fear. So yes, people panic, anxiety, they grieve, they rage, they bargain, they spiral. No self-control. And the community often interprets that spiral as proof that the person needs God. But that's like locking someone in a room their whole life, y'all, and opening the door up one day and then saying, see, you can't handle what's inside. No, you can't handle what's outside. My bad, y'all. The room was saving them. See, they got you thinking that. See, that ain't the way it worked, though. See, it's more like the room was limiting them. And they're just adjusting to the daylight. So, I'm saying that to say this. Withdrawal symptoms are not proof the drug was true. So, let's keep it real. A lot of people don't stay because they're carefully examining the evidence. They stay because leaving cost them too much. It cost them their family. It cost them their friends. It cost them their little religious community. It cost them their identity. It cost them their certainty. Leaving costs the feeling that someone is watching over you. So people cling to it. They cling to it. And when you challenge that belief, you're not just challenging an argument. You're challenging someone's entire psychological support system, y'all. That's why some people get violent in the comments. Not physically violent, but emotionally violent. Now I take that back. Physically violent. I done had people talking about they gonna come find me and kill me. Threatening, name calling. And they ain't got but 800 followers, subscribers. Come on, what's up with the name calling and the threatening and all that? Because I'm telling you, you come here, you gonna need that Jesus for real to get up out of here. But I'm not finna get deterred. See, they do the name calling and the threatening because they're not defending a preposition. They're defending their life raft. And when your identity is built on a belief, evidence feels like an attack. Now, here's another layer for y'all to chew on. See, a lot of religious systems teach that leaving equals moral collapse. So when someone starts doubting and they're not just afraid of being wrong, they're afraid of being evil. They're afraid that they'll lose their goodness. They're afraid that their mind will become a monster or the devil. That fear is control, y'all. Because if you believe your humility is unsafe without a God watching you, then you will never trust yourself. And if you never trust yourself, you'll always need the system. A belief that requires you to fear your own mind is not a truth. It is a cage, people. And this is why when people leave, they often go through a phase where they feel empty. Just darkness. They feel directionless. They feel angry. They feel like the world is gray. And believers point at that and say, see, that's life without God. I'm speaking from experience, y'all. See, now I know what's up. See, that's life after identity foreclosure. That's life after outsourcing. That's life after never building your own meaning. You are giving meaning pre-made when it comes to these beliefs. So when it's gone, you have to learn meaning the hard way. That's not despair. That's growth. That's the painful beginning of becoming a person. The emptiness isn't proof you need religion. It's proof you were never allowed to develop. Now, I want to say something clearly because I'm not here to just roast people today. If you're leaving or you've left and it feels brutal, that doesn't mean that you're weak, man or lady. It means that you're human. It means that you're grieving. It means that you're detoxing. It means that you are rebuilding identity from the ground up. And that takes time. But the difference between a borrowed self and a real self is this, people. A real self can handle uncertainty without falling apart. A real self can change its mind without losing its worth. A real self can be wrong without being destroyed, y'all. If your identity can't survive doubt, it was never an identity. It was never identity from the start. It was obedience. So, if you're in that process, here's your assignment. I want you to take a step back, build, explore, read outside of your bubble, meet people you were trained to fear. Write down your values in your own words. Try hobbies you didn't have permissions to like. Make friends without an agenda. Practice being a person, not a role. And if your old community says you're lost like they did me, remember this, y'all. They don't mean lost. They mean uncontrolled. And to a controlled system, freedom looks like rebellion. Now, let me address the reaction I always see. when you say you were indoctrinated, people explode. They don't calmly examine it. They rage, they mock, they threaten, they call you demonic. And that reaction is the point. Because calm people with secure identities can entertain a question. Fragile identities treat they treat questions like weapons, y'all. And if a question feels like violence to you, it's because your belief is holding yourself together. And you're terrified that if the belief cracks, you'll crack. If you can't question it, you don't own it. It owns you. Now, let's tighten the statement that started this. The goal is not to say you have no personality. The goal is to say something sharper and truer. Some people never individuate. They never become a self. And it's sad. They become a role, people. They become a copy, or they become a replica. They become a mouthpiece. They become a walking comment section for a holy brand. And then they mistake confidently for character. Let me say it even clearer. If your entire identity is borrowed, then your personality is just the shape of the cage you learned to love. And guess what? A cage can be decorated. It's still a cage. Now, if you're watching this and you feel called out, here's the good news. You can build a self. And you don't need a God to do it. You just need courage. You need curiosity. You need a willingness to be wrong. And you need to practice thinking without asking for permission. It's a simple exercise. Ask yourself, what do I believe that I can explain without quoting authority? What do I value that I would value even if no one rewarded it for me? What kind of person do I want to be when no one is watching? Integrity, people. What do I love that isn't connected to proving anything? What would it take to change my mind? See, if you can't answer those, you're in trouble. But if you can answer those, you already ahead of the game, boss man, boss lady. Because that simply means that you're not just inheriting a personality. You're actually building one, and I condone you for it. So, airplane, let me land here. You can be religious and still be a real person. You can be spiritual and still be a real person. If your whole identity is a label and your whole personality is a script and your whole courage depends on never questioning what you were handed, then you're not living as a self. You're living as a product. And I'm not saying that to insult you. I'm saying it because you deserve better than a prepackaged mind. You deserve the dignity of thinking for yourself. You deserve the freedom of becoming. And if your God is real, the truth will survive questions. But if your God requires you to fear questions, then what you're protecting isn't God. It is a control system. And that's the episode for today. If you want more content like this that relates to psychology, religious history, and ruthless truth, subscribe, like, and even share this with one friend who thinks a question is actually a demon. I'll see you on the next one. I'm CJ Everson, and I am the Jewish Skeptic. Oh, and the merch for today is Bait and 8, Lakers jersey, Mitchell and Ness. Peace out.
Do you know what I found? The more you know, the less you know.